Okay, let me try again, but don't expect a sharp image when I zoom all the way谢谢卫生间了。Okay. Looking in the viewfinder. Can you see? No, I see what you mean. Can I turn off the camera? Hey.
再翻一下。
光力可能有，对，这就是蒙蒙的嘛。
然后这边就是长期的。
这是记者席，实际上正位的，没什么地方。别少量的
哟，我就吃啊！挺好吧，挺好。好。
对，原来在那个西台呢，其实比较一下。
我知道。好。
咱们就从这儿上。
来，领导们，站好在手上。
我们现在可以出去。哎，你把那个海豚给给他过去。13啊，13。 日本人说是几点？6。
Water, sir?
Do I have water?
Voilà, voilà.
Oh.
是吧？好了，又开始了。后面给我数一个。他们真非常管。数一个。
各位领导，请尽快落座。还有晚上分享的。
好，谢谢。大家有没有问题？没有吗？
各位领导，请尽快落座，谢谢。
各位领导，马上到时间了，尽快入座。
哎，都这样，我知道。拍一张。
I'm checking the viewfinder. It's
领导20号那边是20号1点
他就记者的位置，可以。
你瘦了好多呀！
我瘦好多，瘦不是好事吗？
因为说我瘦，你是1期吧？
电池没电了。这个电池没电了。
The Silk Road spirit. And last year, China and Uzbekistan established an all-weather comprehensive strategic partnership in the new era. And they have announced to advance the building of a China-Uzbekistan community with a shared future. President of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, Luong Quan. China and Vietnam share a long history. They are comrades and brothers. And the founding father of Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh, joined and supported the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression in places such as Yan'an, Guilin, Chongqing, and Kunming. This year is the 75th anniversary of their diplomatic ties. It's also the year of cultural exchanges between the two sides. And China and Vietnam have deepened their relations in recent years with frequent visits and contact between leaders of the two countries.
And now, Prime Minister of Nepal, KP Sharma Oli, and his wife. Connected by mountains and rivers, China and Nepal have a long history of friendly exchanges. This year is the 70th anniversary of their diplomatic ties. The two countries have seen healthy and stable development in bilateral relations and strengthened political trust. China and Nepal have also expanded cooperation in various fields and under the Belt and Road Initiative. In 2019, their relations were upgraded to a strategic partnership of cooperation featuring everlasting friendship for development and prosperity. And this partnership continues to deepen.
And again, CGTN is bringing you live pictures from the heart of Beijing, the Duanmen Gate, which is to the north of the Forbidden City.
On the red carpet now, President of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev. China and Kazakhstan relations have been tested by changes and challenges, but they always remain at a high level. China and Kazakhstan raised bilateral ties to a permanent, comprehensive strategic partnership in 2019. In 2022, they pledged to build a community with a shared future defined by lasting friendship, a high degree of mutual trust, and sharing weal and woe. In June, Chinese President Xi Jinping was in Kazakhstan for the second China-Central Asia Summit. There, the leaders agreed to forge a China-Central Asia spirit of mutual respect, mutual trust, mutual benefit, and mutual assistance for the joint pursuit of modernization through high-quality development. The two countries have achieved milestones in educational, cultural, scientific, and technological cooperation. The two countries have 26 pairs of sister provinces and cities. Beijing and Astana, their capitals, are sister cities. Next is the General Secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea, and President of the State Affairs of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Kim Jong-un. China and the DPRK established diplomatic ties on October 6, 1949. The DPRK was one of the first to establish ties with the People's Republic of China. Linked by mountains and waters, China and the DPRK are friendly neighbors. This year also marks the 80th anniversary of Korea's liberation. The two peoples supported each other in hard times and through war. They jointly fought against Japanese aggression and made significant contributions to the World Anti-Fascist War and the cause of justice of humanity. The traditional friendship between the two countries was cemented by the old generations of their leaders. Their friendship, also forged in bloody and fiery revolutions, has developed in the process of their socialist construction and is priceless. In recent years, General Secretary Xi Jinping and General Secretary Kim Jong-un have maintained communication through various means. They lead and guide bilateral ties into a new historical phase.
At the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping, dozens of heads of state and government will attend today's commemoration in Beijing. On September 3rd, China marks its V-Day, and this is the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and the World Anti-Fascist War.
Again, Again, another look at the Duanmen Gate just north of the Tiananmen rostrum. The red carpet has rolled out to welcome the arrival of international dignitaries. We've been tracking the arrival of heads of state and government for you right here on CGTN. One by one, their motorcades pulled up, and the leaders arrive for the commemoration of the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and the World Anti-Fascist War.
A commemoration ceremony and a grand military parade are going to take place on Tiananmen Square and along Chang'an Avenue in less than an hour. We have different teams of reporters covering this event for us.
Obviously, the military parade will be the highlight of the day and the highlight of the commemoration. We do understand that new armaments and equipment will be shown in that military parade. They are domestically made, and also they are all active combat gear. And at this moment, the Tiananmen Square is decorated and ready for the commemoration.
Troops and armaments, as we speak, are lining up along Chang'an Avenue. They're ready for the inspection of the Commander-in-Chief. Motorcades carrying heads of state, international dignitaries are arriving here at the Duan Gate. On the red carpet right now is President Prabowo Subianto of the Republic of Indonesia. He arrived early this morning, and China welcomes his arrival. He's here at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping. Now, under the strategic guidance of the two heads of state, China and Indonesia have opened a new chapter of jointly building a community with a shared future. During World War II, Chinese people living in Indonesia donated money and supplies. Many of them returned to China to join the resistance and became heroes. Renowned Chinese writer and anti-fascist intellectual Yu Dafu traveled to Southeast Asia to join the resistance. And he was killed in Sumatra, Indonesia. He wrote, "Our generation should sacrifice for the war of resistance." President Prabowo made a state visit to China soon after his presidential inauguration in 2024. China and Indonesia are traditional friends and neighbors. And it was in this year that China and Indonesia embarked on a new chapter of bilateral ties by building a community with a shared future.
International dignitaries are continuing to arrive at Duanmen Gate, just north of the Tiananmen rostrum in the heart of the Chinese capital. There, a red carpet has been rolled out in honor of the visiting dignitaries. They are heads of state and government who will be participating in the commemoration today of the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and the World Anti-Fascist War. Later on, a military parade will take place on the Chang'an Avenue, an east-to-west major thoroughfare cutting right through the heart of the Chinese capital, Beijing. CGTN will have full coverage of the commemoration today. Make sure you do stay with us right here on CGTN. We've been tracking the arrival of international dignitaries right here on CGTN for you. They're now arriving at the Duanmen Gate. just north of the Tiananmen rostrum, a red carpet has been rolled out for them.
That's right. And the Duanmen Gate is where this reception is taking place. And we're seeing another limousine. President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. Putin has been to China many times since 2013, either for state visits or international conferences. Relations between China and Russia are at their historical best. Their ties are characterized by long-term friendly good neighborliness and mutually beneficial win-win cooperation. In the new era, China-Russia relations are more self-confident, firm, and resilient. From May 7th to 10th, President Xi Jinping made a state visit to Russia and attended commemorations in Moscow of the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Soviet Union's Great Patriotic War. In World War II, China was the main battlefield in Asia, and the Soviet Union was the main battlefield in Europe. They were central to resistance and combat against Japanese militarism and Nazi Germany. They made decisive contributions to the victory in the World Anti-Fascist War. China and Russia are expanding mutually beneficial cooperation in all aspects. Bilateral trade has reached a high of over $244 billion last year. And China and Russia have active cultural exchanges and close cooperation at local levels. They have 168 pairs of sister provinces and cities, and there are also dozens of provincial-level economic partnerships.
Remembering history, honoring the fallen heroes, cherishing peace, and creating a better future. And this is our special program commemorating the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and the World Anti-Fascist War. International dignitaries have now arrived and are meeting the Chinese president and his wife.
As we're watching right now, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Madame Peng Liyuan are welcoming international dignitaries at the south square of Duanmen Gate.
These are heads of international organizations that are walking down the red carpet to be received by the Chinese president and his wife.
That's right. And a decade ago, on September 3rd, it was also here where Chinese President Xi Jinping and his wife, Madame Peng Liyuan, welcomed international guests to the commemoration of the 70th anniversary of the victory of the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and the World Anti-Fascist War. Many of the guests attending the commemoration today previously attended the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin, which concluded just a few days ago.
That's right, and President Xi says the SCO is a proactive force for world peace and development. It is the first grouping to put forth the vision of global governance, featuring extensive consultation and joint contribution for shared benefit as an effort to practice true multilateralism. He also said the SCO always stands on the side of international fairness and justice and champions inclusiveness and mutual learning between civilizations and opposes hegemonism and power politics.
And also at that Tianjin summit, President Xi proposed the Global Governance Initiative. He calls on members to adhere to sovereign equality, abide by international rule of law, practice multilateralism, advocate the people-centered approach, and focus on taking real actions.
The Chinese president and his wife greeting the international dignitaries that have arrived in Beijing for the commemoration of the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and the World Anti-Fascist War.
We're watching live pictures from the heart of Beijing, the Duanmen Gate to the north of the Forbidden City. Dozens of heads of state and leaders of international organizations are arriving on the red carpet. And in about half an hour, the commemoration ceremony will begin on Tiananmen Square. As part of this commemoration, a grand military parade will also take place. Troops and armaments are standing by ready along Chang'an Avenue as we speak. And it's early morning in Beijing. CGTN is broadcasting live to a global audience.
The president is saying to his guests, welcome, welcome.
And as these international guests are arriving, later on they will pose for a group photo.
And here's what we know about the commemoration that will happen later today. The Chinese president will deliver an important speech at the commemoration. And the commemoration includes a massive military parade, which is composed of two parts, the inspection of the troops and the march past, lasting approximately 70 minutes. The Chinese president and his wife welcoming guests arriving for the commemoration. And now they're walking towards a group photo where the arriving international dignitaries will take a group photo together with the Chinese president.
We are certainly marking a significant anniversary today on September 3rd. China is commemorating the 80th anniversary of the victory
This gathering today in commemoration of the victory also heralds a new beginning for all countries to work together to create a harmonious world and safeguard global peace.
Well, as you can see right there, front and center on this gate is the character Duan Men. The Chinese character Duan also conveys righteousness, which is consistent with the message of safeguarding international justice.
The leaders are now walking together towards the Tiananmen rostrum. It's a short walk from the Duanmen Gate we've been telling you about, which stands just north of the Tiananmen rostrum, to the rostrum itself.
And Joshi, you know, for many foreign leaders who have visited China before, the Tiananmen rostrum, or the Forbidden City, is a familiar sight. Many of them have been here before to the Forbidden City. However, this gathering here today holds a special significance.
Absolutely. The Tiananmen rostrum sits right in the heart of the Chinese capital, with viewing platforms that can overlook the Tiananmen Square. The leaders will be walking towards the rostrum. They will ascend to the viewing platform on the rostrum and view the military parade together.
Now, as they walk on the red carpet to make their way to the top of the Tiananmen rostrum, a little bit of background information about the structure. It was built as a ceremonial gate to the imperial city in the Ming Dynasty. It's witnessed the ties of Chinese history in the past 6 centuries.
And in 1937, Tiananmen Square witnessed the fall of Peking. In October 1945, Japanese invaders in North China officially surrendered at the square of the Hall of Supreme Harmony in the Forbidden City.
Today's commemoration is certainly a big national event, a military event as well, as troops and armaments are standing by ready for the inspection. It is also a significant diplomatic event, as heads of state, leaders of international organizations are convening here to review the commemoration and the parade.
The leaders are making full use of this time as they walk together to the Tiananmen rostrum, engaging in friendly chit-chat and conversations.
And today, the Tiananmen rostrum, steeped in the depths of history, will again witness new glory. It is a pretty long walk to ascend to the top of the Tiananmen rostrum.
"80 decades ago, World War II ended with over 100 million casualties among soldiers and civilians worldwide. Chinese casualties were more than 35 million. And today is about commemorating the victory in that war, in the Chinese people's war of resistance against Japanese aggression, as well as the World Anti-Fascist War. And now the leaders are arriving at that expansive viewing platform up on the Tiananmen rostrum.
And we understand that some of the veterans of the War of Resistance were given their own viewing spots on top of the Tiananmen rostrum. Crowds are welcoming China's top leader, as well as international dignitaries. We are seeing veterans sitting there, and President Xi Jinping and international dignitaries are shaking hands with a 99-year-old veteran, 100-year-old veteran from the 8th Route Army, 94-year-old veteran from the 8th Route Army, 102-year-old veteran from the new 8th Route Army, and from South China Guerrilla Force, 100-year-old veteran from the Kuomintang. And during the fight against the Japanese aggression, the Chinese people established a national united front to safeguard their homeland.
Obviously, the Chinese president was very pleased to see the veterans present up on the Tiananmen rostrum. He even introduced the veterans to his guests there, and shaking hands with the veterans, greeting them, welcoming them to this very important commemoration.
And the veterans represent the legacies of this long-fought war. And their spirit of resilience, of peace, of perseverance still echo on every inch of China's soil now.
It's certainly a very heartwarming scene there to have the veterans seated up on the Tiananmen rostrum. They are the real heroes and role models, and they motivate us to keep pushing forward. The victory of the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression is a glory shared by the Chinese nation and also people worldwide who stand for justice. Professor Gao, Mr. Zhou, let's bring you in for this part. Obviously, the veterans are seated, out there on the Tiananmen rostrum so that they have an opportunity to participate in the commemoration today. What do you make of that arrangement, Professor Gao?
Well, I think this is really the right thing to do because they fought against the Japanese aggressors. They shed their blood, and they have always been honored by the People's Republic, by the Chinese people, and now they are in the center of this reviewing process of the parade to commemorate the 80th year anniversary of the victory against Japanese aggression. And I think we all hail them as the real heroes, defending China's sovereignty and territorial integrity and fighting off the Japanese aggressors.
Real heroes and real witnesses, not only to the atrocities of the war, but more importantly to the final victory. And we're so happy that they get to see the commemoration today. Mr. Zhou, your thoughts?
Well, I think I can't agree more with Victor Gao about the importance of having these veterans standing on Tiananmen Square. I think it's rare, It won't be easy for us to see these people right now because they're all very old people, but they're still alive, but they can still see how strong China is today, in which they have made their due and a great contribution. So I think that is indeed a great honor for them to be there and for us to see them there.
Now, many of these veterans fought under extremely harsh conditions: poverty, famine, the lack of military resources. What does their perseverance teach us about the spirits of, resilience and courage? And, besides honoring them in events like this, what more could we do, Professor Gao, to really weave their legacies more into everyday life?
I think these veterans, 80 years ago, or more than 80 years ago, fought against Japanese aggressors not only as soldiers, but they were true representatives of the Chinese nation, true representative of the Chinese culture and the Chinese civilization. In their bodies, I can see the most splendid and the glorious part of the Chinese civilization. So they became the epitome of the Chinese nation. They became the epitome of the Chinese civilization. And by shedding blood for their own motherland, by fighting off foreign aggressors, they set an example for the future generation. So now we honor them as our national hero, and the younger generation draw inspiration from these veterans and learn lessons from them, and we become redoubled in our commitment to defending peace and defending China and defending the Chinese culture and ultimately the Chinese civilization.
Obviously, we're commemorating this day. We're inviting veterans up on the Tiananmen rostrum to carry on the spirit of the war of resistance against the Japanese aggression. Mr. Zhou, how do we do that? How do we make sure that the spirit of perseverance, the spirit of never surrender, the spirit of defending your motherland lives on in today's world?
Well, these people are actually old soldiers, right? And old soldiers never die. So what they have left us are actually a litany of fine traditions. But if you look at the PLA today, you would find it so interesting to see that how small they were at that time and how ill-equipped they were at that time. But on the contrary, today, China is almost the opposite, right? China is having the largest armed force in the world, and in a moment we're going to see all the modern weaponry and combat platforms. But still, this kind of fine traditions are basically in the heart and in the blood of our modern-day soldiers, because that's really, really matter, for us, if you are going to another war. So you have to think of where you come from, right? And what kind of traditions are already placed in you. So these people basically are the very sources of a fine tradition.
How can remembering their sacrifices and contributions inspire values that are still relevant today? Professor Gao?
Well, I think they are the true Chinese nationals and our heroes. But allow me to mention, behind these veterans, I also see those who fell on the battleground, who really sacrificed their lives for the Chinese nation. So I think we not only see these veterans who are the true representative of those heroes fighting against Japanese aggressors, but they are also representatives of all the millions of the Chinese soldiers who shed their blood, who sacrificed their life, and they too become the national heroes for the current generation of the Chinese nation and the future generations. And I think by honoring them, we honor ourselves, we honor our national history and our Chinese civilization, and we honor peace. That is the most important thing.
You know, we talked about international solidarity towards ending the Second World War, and the international solidarity is also present today with the turnout of those international dignitaries that have arrived in Beijing. You're looking at live pictures of the Tiananmen Square that's fully decorated for the commemoration today. There are the year-marking installations that show the years 1945 and 2025.
Good. A little back. Yeah. Back a little.
人民抗日战争暨世界反法西斯战争胜利80周年大会现在开始。请全体肃立，鸣礼炮。向左向右转，断成，齐步走。 升国旗，唱国歌。敬礼！请坐下。请中共中央总书记、中华人民共和国主席、中央军委主席习近平同志发表重要讲话。
全国同胞们，尊敬的各位国家元首、政府首脑和国际组织代表，尊敬的各位来宾，全体受阅将士们、同志们、朋友们，今天我们隆重集会，纪念中国人民抗日战争及世界反法西斯战争胜利80周年，共同铭记历史，缅怀先烈，珍爱和平，开创未来。我代表中共中央、全国人大、国务院、全国政协、中央军委，向全国参加过抗日战争的老战士、老同志、爱国人士和抗日将领，向为中国人民抗日战争胜利做出重大贡献的海内外中华儿女致以崇高敬意，向支援和帮助过中国人民抵抗侵略的外国政府和国际友人表示衷心感谢。向参加今天大会的各国来宾表示热烈欢迎。同志们、朋友们，中国人民抗日战争是艰苦卓绝的伟大战争，在中国共产党倡导建立的抗日民族统一战线旗帜下，中国人民以铮铮铁骨战强敌，以血肉之躯筑长城，取得近代以来反抗外敌入侵的第一次完全胜利。中国人民抗日战争是世界反法西斯战争的重要组成部分。 中国人民以巨大的民族牺牲，为拯救人类文明、保卫世界和平，做出了重大贡献。历史警示我们，人类命运休戚与共，各个国家、各个民族只有平等相待、和睦相处、守望相助。反法西斯战争的重要组成部分。中国人民以巨大的民族牺牲，为拯救人类文明、保卫世界和平，做出了重大贡献。历史警示我们，人类命运休戚与共，各个国家、各个民族只有平等相待、和睦相处、守望相助，才能维护共同安全，消弭战争根源，不让历史悲剧重演。同志们、朋友们，中华民族是不畏强暴、自立自强的伟大民族。当年，面对正义与邪恶、光明与黑暗、进步与反动的生死较量，中国人民同仇敌忾，奋起反抗，为国家生存而战，为民族复兴而战，为人类正义而战。今天，人类又面临和平还是战争、对话还是对抗、共赢还是零和的抉择。中国人民坚定站在历史正确一边，站在人类文明进步一边，坚持走和平发展道路，与各国人民携手构建人类命运共同体。中国人民解放军始终是党和人民完全可以信赖的英雄部队，全军将士要忠实履行神圣职责，加快建设世界一流军队，坚决维护国家主权、统一、领土完整，为实现中华民族伟大复兴提供战略支撑，为世界和平与发展做出更大贡献。历史承载过去，也启迪未来。新时代新征程，全国各族人民要在中国共产党坚强领导下，坚持马克思列宁主义、毛泽东思想、邓小平理论、三个代表重要思想、科学发展观，全面贯彻新时代中国特色社会主义思想，坚定不移走中国特色社会主义道路，传承和弘扬伟大抗战精神，踔厉奋发，勇毅前行，为中国式现代化全面推进强国建设、民族 复兴伟业而团结奋斗。中华民族伟大复兴势不可挡，人类和平与发展的崇高事业必将胜利。
阅兵开始。
标兵就位。
完毕，请您检阅阅兵总指挥韩胜言。
开始。
是。
同志们辛苦了！
为人民服务！第三方针，正！
同志们好！
主席好！第四方针，敬礼！
同志们辛苦了！
为人民服务！
同志们好！
主席好！
同志们辛苦了！
为人民服务！
同志们好！
主席好！
同志们辛苦了！
为人民服务！
同志们好！
主席好！ 们辛苦了。同志们好！同志们辛苦了。为人民服务。同志们好。
放飞和平歌。纪念中国人民抗日战争暨世界反法西斯战争胜利80周年大会到此结束。